everybody, today is November 23rd, 2011, day before Thanksgiving, and I have some incredible news today for the silver market. But before I get going on that, I would like to throw out my disclaimer. Now, I am not a financial advisor, and if you would like some financial advice, you probably want to seek out a financial professional. And maybe tell him about these things that I'm telling you, but I doubt that he'll get you into any type of investments, like perhaps the best performing asset over the past 10 years. I'm sure they'll have some great mutual funds or ETFs or something that go along with the 10% rise we've seen in the markets over the last 10 years. But you know, another thing you could do is check with your local banker. I'm sure he can get you into a nice 0.35 of 1% return on a one-year CD. You know, maybe if you put $10,000 in there, you can get a nice $35 return on $10,000 over 1 year. So anyway, for the news, I have incredible news. Here it is. Sprott Asset Management on November 16th filed a prospectus with the SEC of their intentions of offering another $1.5 billion to their PSLV silver trust. And if you remember, in 2010, the end of 2010, he started the PSLV with $580 million, and it took him, according to Eric Sprott, it took 2.5 months for him to acquire the metal, and some of it had been refined, you know, after the date that he announced that, you know, the purchase of the physical metal, so it wasn't readily available. So, and in that time also, silver went, in the 6 months after his purchase, it went from 18 to 49, a 177% rise. Now, I don't have any proof that his purchase made it do that. It just may be coincidental that, you know, that happened. Maybe, maybe not. Who knows? However, you know, he's talking about buying 3 times that amount now. So we're going to have huge physical demand. Now, the thing I wanted to make special about this video was I wanted to put that in perspective. You know, maybe you've already heard the news, but I wanted to put that in perspective for you. Maybe you didn't have it put in perspective quite this way. This is 5% of all the silver mined in 1 year, you know, give or take. It's about 45 million ounces we're talking about. 5% of all the silver mined in a year. You know, he's out there going to be looking in the physical market for. The U.S. Mint Silver Eagle program is on a record year this year, on track for like 42 million ounces sold. He's talking about more than all the U.S. Mint Silver Eagle sales in an entire year. I mean, that's huge. Another way to look at it would be $10 to $20 million above the registered silver available for delivery at the COMEX. I mean, it's an incredible amount of silver. It's, you know, recently I did a video on the Silver Institute talking about the silver demand for 2010 is going to be $10 billion. It's on track, and it was $6 billion last year. Well, that's 15% of the entire world silver demand, investment demand, for all of 2011, and 25% of last year's world silver demand. So there's a huge amount of silver that he's going to be looking to buy. And, you know, he says that silver is the buy of the decade. Well, he sure seems to be putting his money where his mouth is. I mean, that's an incredible amount of silver, and, you know, he foresees the demand for the PSLV and wants to have the physical silver to back it. You know, I'm not really an advocate of the paper silver, because you just have a piece of paper that says you have that silver. If you don't have it in your hand, like this onza coin from Mexico. You really don't own it if you don't have it in your hand. But people are moving away from this crap, this trash here, and they're getting real physical silver. You got to have real money. With what's happening, I mean, I could go on and on all night. I'm sure you get bored of me. I have. Before you go, I got one more important thing to tell you. I'm sure you get bored at some point. I mean, I got to talk about the super committee that failed. How Washington is just a total laughingstock. They can't even come together to cut 1.2 trillion out of the the budget projections for the next 10 years. Right now, they're overspending 1.5 trillion a year, overspending, and they're just trying to cut 1.2 trillion out of the next 10 years, and they couldn't do it. It's a wash. So they're, supposedly it's going to automatically happen or whatever. All that stuff is bogus. It doesn't even matter. We're so far in debt, 15 trillion, and we're adding 1.5 trillion a year, and that'll probably accelerate. I mean, they're talking about, instead of adding 15 trillion more over the next 10 years, which is probably 15 to 20 trillion, we'll cut 1 trillion out of that. Like, it makes a difference. They're just totally wasting their time. We're going to have a collapse of the U.S. dollar. I've been saying this for 2 years. Maybe it doesn't happen for another 5 or 10. But the people who have this, those would be the people that are, the most prepared for a collapse in the U.S. dollar, in the currency. Having some real money. I'll leave it there. I don't want to get on that whole thing right now. So anyway, the super committee's total wash. My other bit of news that I want to talk about, which has happened on Monday of this week, there was a record, well, I don't know if it's a record, it's a huge amount of physical withdrawn out of the COMEX, 2.8 million ounces. Brinks had a 2.3 million ounce withdrawal, and then there was a couple other withdrawals, but it was 2.8 million. So now like 32 million registered available silver ounces for delivery. And I went to go look and see, well, how many contracts are there, and what are we talking about? Physical ounces of silver available for delivery on what? On what amount? On how many contracts? Well, it's 33,585 contracts. So it's 168 million, just about, ounces of silver, and they got 37 million available for delivery. So, could we possibly be seeing a beginning of a run on the COMEX? I don't know. I don't want to start any rumors. Who knows? Things are getting really exciting. I feel sorry for the people who aren't involved in precious metals. Everything's just coming together. I mean, I'm going to leave you with this final thought. Just kind of put things in perspective of where they're heading, why you want to have some real money, and why electronic digits in the bank account aren't worth the money they're not printed on, according, like Gerald Celente says. And this stuff here has no worth. I was at the store, and the guy, had to pay like $10 or something. He pulled out a 5. Oh, sorry, that's the wrong one. He pulls out a 10. I'm thinking, 5, 10, what's the difference? It's all just paper trash. At some point, people will realize that. But so I want to leave you with this one last thought. Since the S&P downgraded the credit of the United States for the first time ever, we've added somewhere around $450 billion to the national debt. That's more than the Greece's sovereign debt problem that they're having. I mean, we're just adding, an incredible amount of debt at a accelerated rate of speed, and the people that want to protect themselves are going to have gold and silver. That's it. Happy Thanksgiving to those who celebrate Thanksgiving. Enjoy the time with your family and friends, and we'll be talking to you soon.